but not much else. Get our favorite plays on the totals, sides, props, exotics, and futures to jump on now. So let's get it started with Jason and Ben. Let's get it started with Jason and Ben. Let's get it started with Jason and Ben. Subject custom can't call so bad but comes so fairly now. Let's get it started with Jason and Ben. Let's get it started with Jason and Ben.
Hey there. Thank you guys, as always, for tuning in to Wanna Bet, or more to the point and more likely reconsuming this at some other time other than right now at noon Eastern when we're doing this. I told you guys all week we had some great guests lined up, and Joe Madden from Sports Grid is here. I have uber respect for Sports Grid. They are OGs in this game, and we're really handicapping stuff 24/7 way before it became fashionable. Joe is based in Canada. We definitely want to start tapping into the CFL a little bit more, given where we are in the sports calendar. And frankly, I think there's just a lot of money to be made there in general. And we'll talk some Blue Jays, and we'll actually be covering all kinds of sports here. So, Joe, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate you joining us.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me here. I'm excited for today. This show sounds a lot of fun. You said everyone's been having fun on it. I'm ready to do so as well.
I may have just, put the kibosh on it and done the, hopefully it's a reverse jinx and not a jinx, but I may have jinxed it. Okay. But no, we're going to have fun. Beltway Ben, let's put out there for the people what we've done this year and what we did last night. We are nothing if not transparent. Ben had some bad luck with a rain delay that killed the Yamamoto prop, but he was dominating. Things got a little weird in that Giants game. I on our Discord, I lost the under in the ninth inning because Falche hit two dudes and then walked somebody on 5 pitches. But look, the wanna bet bets I gave out yesterday crushed. And Ben and I destroyed the NBA draft. And I told you guys this Ace Bailey stuff is ridiculous. The worst he's going to go is 6 to the Wizards. And look, he's probably still going top 5, and there you go. And Beltway Ben, you were all over your boy Khan at Duke.
Yeah, I liked him, and I gave it out early, and like a day later, as we were talking, it's minus 1,000 and minus 300 to go 4th overall. So I was on that pretty early on, and that's again with these draft props. Just in the future, I know we won't have NFL draft for another year, but getting them in earlier, right when you hear stuff, is important because the lines change so quick.
Yes. So yeah, we gave you guys a lot of value on our Discord. You can check out the Discord, go to our Twitter, which you already know if you're watching this, and find it. So Joe, we're not putting any pressure on you, but we've been doing all right here at Wanna Bet. So, but again, no pressure, no pressure. You have the honors as our guest. What is your first down bet of the day?
Ooh, I'm going to go with a matchup here between the LA Dodgers and the Colorado Rockies. I'm looking for this one to be a high-scoring first inning. Now, I looked at the Yurfie. The Yurfie is so highly juiced at minus 178 this morning. Just couldn't take a full unit on that. I'd maybe do a half unit on that. And then the other half on the over 1.5 runs in the first inning. I'll just take the over 1.5 runs in the first inning. Dodgers games are where I really like to isolate this bet. We know the top of the lineup is so strong out there for the Dodgers. And we've got Kronberg coming out here for the Colorado Rockies. And I don't trust him at all. He's got an ERA over 8. He's got a whip of 1.66. And I do think the Dodgers will hit nicely off of him. But if the Colorado Rockies come out and somehow hit Clayton Kershaw here, we know he's being not as solid as we'd like to see. I'd like to see Clayton Kershaw have a couple more really strong starts. He's still got that 3.31 ERA, but we're going to see runs in the first inning. So I'll take the over 1.5 runs in the first inning here between the Dodgers and the Rockies.
I absolutely love it. Look at Freeman, look at Betts. Look at Pages, smaller sample size. Those guys destroy Austin Gomber, and pretty much everybody destroys Austin Gomber. I have sprinkled a little bit on Dodgers over 3.5 runs in the first 5 innings. I'm also on Andy Pages, total bases, hits, runs, RBIs. I'm right there with you, Joe. All right, Beltway Ben, first down.
Yeah, I'm going to stick with the MLB. I'm going to go with Pete Alonso over 1.5 hits, runs, and RBIs at minus 110, slashing 311, 401, 588. This year against right-handed pitching. He's facing Grant Holmes, who righties are slugging 565 against. He's got 7 home runs in the month of June. As it heats up, we always see Pete Alonso start to deliver more home runs. And the Mets finally broke that losing streak yesterday, so they need to turn it on still. Like, the one win isn't going to get them back to where they want. They have Canning on the mound today. I do think they start to turn things around, but the 4-hitter has to be locked in. So I like Pete Alonso over 1.5 hits, runs, and RBIs.
Sweet. I am going to place my first CFL bet of the season. This game is really interesting to me. And so again, when I make a play in real life, I put it right on the Super Discord. And so you're seeing how lines change. So I jumped on the Alouettes money line at the beginning of the week, which I got at minus 130. And there were questions about, is Davis Alexander going to be the quarterback? He left with an undisclosed injury. It's still, for my money, the best team in the CFL. They've got the number one passing efficiency team in the CFL. Like, they're scoring 30 a game. They've got a plus 50, basically, point differential. And they're playing a Hamilton team that's allowed 66 points in 2 games and is also coming off an early bye, which I don't really like. Then it looked like maybe Alexander would play and the money line was going to go to minus 200. I look at it today, it's back to minus 130. I don't care who the quarterback is. And Joe, I want you to jump in here in a second, but like the McLeod Bethel Thompson backup threw 24 touchdowns last year and almost 3,800 yards and looked pretty good when Alexander got knocked out of the game. So it's moved a lot of different ways. That 24.5, you can now get at minus 130. So I'm fine with both. I've played both. I think they're scoring at least 25 points, and they're probably covering. The line's back now to minus 2.5. But the money line is back to minus 148. This feels like a mismatch to me. Maybe I'm missing something. Maybe Montreal never wins in Hamilton. Like, it just never happened. But Joe, am I crazy here?
No, not at all. You're going to need McLeod Bethel Thompson to really hold on to that ball. We know he's been forced into those mistakes, but you're looking at a Montreal defense that has every opportunity of getting you that pick 6 and helping you with those points as well. You nailed the hammer on the head with the defense here of the Ticats. And while they had the bye week, they're looking to improve on what we saw in the first couple of weeks. This team is doing exactly what they did last year. They're allowing those points to come in. So I think Montreal, great pick for their team total to the over.
Nice. All right, let's go. Let's go, Alouettes. I covered the CFL. The Baltimore Stallions, like, where they actually won they won a Grey Cup. They lost one at BC Place. Louis Pasaglia field goal, and then the next year the Stallions came back and won the whole thing. And then all the American teams were out of the CFL. But I love covering it and always keep an eye on it. All right, Beltway Ben, second down. What you got?
Yeah, I'm going to stick with the MLB here. I'm going to go with J.P. Crawford over 1.5 hits, runs, and RBIs. Minus 130. Anybody who watches this show knows how much I like the leadoff guys, 4 hits, runs, and RBIs. And when you get 1.5 for a guy like him, I like it. I know he's struggling at the plate the last few games. He's hitless in 3 straight, but he hasn't gone hitless in 4 straight games all year. 311, 411, 413 slash line against right-handed pitching. Lefties are hitting 337 against Simeon Woods Richardson. And one thing with Woods Richardson, like, they sent him down and he comes back and he's had some fine outings, but every single outing you watch him pitch, lefties are getting to him. And we're going to get the maximized at bats with Crawford in the one spot. All we need is a hit. He's fast, could take a base, but if not, does usually get in scoring position. And Mariners lineup isn't great, but they do have some guys behind him that can drive him in. It's just the bottom of the lineup, which is really struggling. So I do like J.P. Crawford to go over the 1.5 hits, runs, and RBIs.
Love it. Second down for me. I swear this is not in honor of Joe, because Beltway Ben knows I've been on Canada the entire Gold Cup. Give me Canada to score in both halves against the Guatemala team that is the worst of all those who qualified from the group stage and moved into the knockout round. Jesse Marsch is back on the sidelines, which helps. I think Jesse Marsch has been humbled a little bit by some of his rhetoric not being backed up by how the team played. Jesse Marsch gets a team that I think will go back to the Honduras lineup where they won 6-0 and really could have scored in any 10-minute segment of that game. So all the experimentation to get through the group stage, I think, are out. They're playing in Minnesota. So Tani Alawafusi, the striker, that's where he plays. He scored 8 goals in 16 games for his club team in MLS. Like, that not having to play in extreme heat or anything like that, I think is going to help them and their depth and their quality. We finally saw Jonathan David, who I thought would win the Golden Boot in this tournament, get off the schneid and score a goal after a PK was saved. So I like his confidence. You know, maybe we get a little bit more Kyle Larin. Look, I think they probably score in the first 30 minutes of this game. I don't fancy Guatemala much. I like the way this lines up for Canada. And I think Jesse Marsch will try to have them go into the semifinals with that attacking thrust, like stepping on people's necks like they did Honduras. So I like them to score in each half. It's back up to minus 112. I got it 2 days ago at plus 130. That's where we played it on the Discord. You can now get it at plus 112. We'll see where that moves. All right, second down, Joe, what you got?
Yeah, I'm going to go for a K prop here, looking at the matchup between the Braves and the Mets. I got to look at Griffin Canning here to come out and go over his prop of 4.5 strikeouts. I think he can nicely do this. We look at him on the season, 7-3 on the season. He's been solid out there for the Mets. He's got a solid ERA of 3.97. He's got 67 strikeouts and 73.2 innings pitched. And when we look at the Atlanta Braves lineup, there's a lot of bats in that lineup that he has really had success in getting those strikeouts in. Now we look at him in his last couple, and he's going under this for his average. He's averaging right on that 4.47 strikeouts per game. But there's been some standout games where I've really seen what he can do with his arm, especially that game versus the Dodgers back on June 4th. He was able to get 7 strikeouts in that one. I'm expecting him to come out like he did in that game versus what we've seen in him in the games versus the Phillies, the Tampa Bay Rays, and the Washington Nationals, where he wasn't able to go over this. So I'm looking for kind of a bounce back here versus the bats here in the lineup of the Braves, and for him to nicely clear 4.5. It's not too much to ask out of Canning in this one. So I'll take him over the 4.5 strikeouts.
Yeah, I think the Mets hold serve today and at least split that series. The Braves have been really bad on the road. All right, that brings us to third down. I will kick it off. I love the Rays today. Maybe I love them too much. But I think they take care of business against Kansas City. If you have not been paying attention, Tampa is 21-9 on the run line on the road this season. That is number 1 in MLB. How about the Royals at home on the run line? That would be 13-27, 29th in MLB. Only Ben and my Orioles are worse. And don't worry, I'll be on Tampa against the O's at Camden Yards tomorrow. Lorenzen is finally who I kind of always thought he was. You know, he's a pitcher where you look at his peripherals and you say, why isn't that ERA like a run higher? Like, what am I missing here? Well, he's getting pounded now. He's got a 6.32 ERA in his last 7. Tampa's super hot, right? Tampa's covered 11 of their last 14. Tampa's covered 21 of their last 26 on the road. We're looking at a Kansas City team that's 1-9 on the run line in their last 9 at home. They can't score more than 2 or 3 runs a game. And Shane Baz is up. He oscillates. He's back and forth. I tend to think he's an ace in the making. And Shane Baz's ERA is about 2 runs lower on the road than pitching in Tampa in that AA ballpark where you hit the ball 350 down, to the right field power alley, and it's a home run. So I think the Rays complete the sweep here. I think the Royals are reeling. Give me the Rays. All right, Joe, what you got? Third down.
Oh, some people are absolutely going to hate this. We're going to go big or go home. On the third down play here, looking at the CFL, the Edmonton Elks taking on the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. We know which team on paper is the better team, but I'm rolling with the dog in this situation. Plus the 10.5 points, and I'm going to put a sprinkle on that money line. The Edmonton Elks have every ability to win this one, and it's because I'm looking at the scheduling spot for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. I think in the CFL, you really have to look at those scheduling spots, and the Winnipeg Blue Bombers coming into this one are coming off a big road game, and they're headed back out on the road. Looking at their schedule, they have the bye in week 1. Week number 2, they were able to beat the BC Lions at home 34-20. They then went to BC last week in week 3, beating the BC Lions 27-14. Now they return home. It's a short week. They're playing here on a Thursday night. And then next week, they're back out there on a Thursday night in Calgary versus the Stampeders. It's really interesting to see their schedule after that as well, because in week 5, and week 7, they play the Stamps. They've got a bye in week 6 again. Week 8, they play the Argos back-to-back, week 8 and 9, and then week 10 again to the Calgary Stampeders. So you're looking at the games ahead of this game, and they've got some really hard games on deck between the Argos and the Stamps. I think this is a spot where the Edmonton Elks, even though they're 0-2 on the season, get their first win. I'm looking for Trey Ford to come out really strong, the quarterback, and for this team to somehow pull it off. So let's go big on the Edmonton Elks.
So just to be clear, because we got the graphic there, you'll take the 10.5, but you think the Elks are winning this thing outright. You're on the money line.
Absolutely. And it's a hard pill, I know, for people to swallow, because you've got one of the best defenses in the CFL against one of the worst defenses in the CFL in Edmonton. But Edmonton last week in their last quarter of that game just looked nice and strong. And I think they carry that momentum. And I think Winnipeg just kind of sleeps on the Edmonton Elks here, because you look at the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, Edmonton has not won versus the Blue Bombers since November 3rd, 2018, in which they won 33-24. If they can keep this one tight into that fourth, they have every ability to win.
You've convinced me. We'll get to Ben in a second, but this is our middle dog, Copper. I am laying a unit, and I'm gonna take the Montreal money line and the Elks money line and do a little two-way parlay. And Meatball here is going to be good luck for me. All right, third down, Beltway. Ben, what you got?
Yeah, I'm going to WNBA here. I'm going to go with Lexi Hull over 8.5 points, minus 110 to minus 125, depending on where you play it. Caitlin Clark's out, which is pretty massive for this prop. She's gone over it a few games with Clark playing, but with her out, she's over it in 4 or 5 games. I was kind of surprised to see Clark out. She has not been good shooting the ball of late, though. But Hull is averaging 12.6 points per game in her last 5 home games. It should be a relatively close game with Clark out. We should see 32 to 36 minutes from Hull. And we've seen her growth like each of her 4 years in this league, right? She's been with Indiana for 4 years, and when she got there, didn't play a ton, but over the years, she's been better. And right now, she is definitely on pace for her best year in the WNBA. And again, like, these opportunities are where she can show it for when she does hit the market, because we know Indiana has a lot of money to pay the girls that they already have on their team. And Hull probably could be someone that goes somewhere else and plays a little bit better. So I like her over 8.5 points with Caitlin Clark out at minus 110.
Sweet. I'm sprinkling. That's Copper, the little guy. That brings us to fourth and long, and this is where we, discuss long shot bets a lot of the times, or things that could pay off for you down the road, a long ways down the road. Or we kind of go a little deeper and go a little bit long on a topic that maybe a lot of people aren't that familiar with. So I really wanted to kind of tap into Joe's expertise in the CFL, and she already mentioned some of the scheduling quirks, right? Because it's a smaller league. Things are compact. You do get these weird back-to-back situations. You have, buys only 2 weeks into the season. And so we kind of want to tap into like some trends and different things maybe that she looks for. So like Joe, as I mentioned, I covered the league a long time ago. And I know a lot of people just kind of think it's points. And you look at those over-unders and everybody's like, oh, it's going to be 65, 63 every week. And that's not the case. But I mean, with the totals, in general, do you think things do kind of tend to be a little bit wacky, and if things are a coin flip, you just kind of lean to the over because of the big field? I mean, just obviously points are incentivized in that league.
Yeah, they really are. And you see that by the miss field goals now becoming, you get a 1 point as long as it crosses over the line. So they've made so many changes out there that you are seeing those higher scoring games. That is what the league wants. They want the big flashy plays out there, but you've really got to be careful with that total. And they put those totals so high. So staying off a total when you just don't think it's going to get there, unless you're looking at a defense that you do think can get that pick six, which can lead to those cases. We also get a lot of garbage time in the CFL in those fourth quarters, with the opponents allowing their opponents to come back and really make a rally at the end of these games. We've seen it this season already with teams not playing a full time clock out there, and the defense is getting tired. You also have to look at those injuries. The injuries are huge in the CFL. The difference between the number 1 running back and the number 2 running back, unless it's a running back that's really looking to come out and make a statement, we're seeing huge differences in their workload and what they're able to do out there on the field. So it's looking into a bunch of things, and the weather, especially when you're looking at a place like Calgary. We saw the other weekend that low scoring game because we had torrential rains here in YYC, but the books still had that total at like 48.5 between the Calgary Stampeders and the Ottawa Redblacks. And I don't even think we got a touchdown in that first half of that game. So that total dropped nice and low, but the over adjustments, if you can bet live in the CFL, which is hard on a lot of these books, they won't put up those numbers. The over adjustments are amazing for you to be able to capitalize on.
Ben and I are doing some work with the PLL lacrosse. And so like we're talking to their analytics guys and trying to find ways to get sort of advanced data or things that might be quasi proprietary now that they're working on that'll eventually be on the website. Are there any resources you found for like CFL data or things beyond just sort of the normal scoring differential and the weekly, 8 page of traditional stats that they put out?
Yeah, no, it is so hard in the CFL. You're not going to be able to find those long trends that you can find unless you're like really Googling something that Google's able to find that information out there. You've got to know those trends that you want to find. And I do think if you bring over the trends that you're looking for in college football and in the NFL, the stats about how teams have played versus each other, and you dig down to find it, but there's no page you can really go to where it's going to have all of those trends for you in the CFL. They just don't keep the data like they do. And that's why the books have a hard time with you live betting it, because the books aren't getting that updated information. Even on apps like The Score, you're not going to see the breakdown of, who's put that touchdown up on the board, how many yards they've had during that game until after the game is over in process. So it's hard with the CFL. You really got to know what you want to find and dig into Google for that. And then you can find it. And then just looking at those each and every single game, watching those breakdowns. But I'm a huge bettor that watches all these games that I'm betting. I have to know how those games went down, and not just the highlights. I do watch them on 1.5 speed to see really where those mistakes happened out of those teams.
You kind of touched on it.
Yeah, go ahead. Oh, yeah.
You kind of touched on it with the trends, but like, are there any metrics for the CFL that you use compared to the NFL that you're probably not using just with the different rules and everything like that? Are there trends or metrics that you're using in that league compared to the NFL?
No, not really, to be honest with you. So there's like different things you can look into, because of course the CFL rules are different. You only have those 3 downs. So you're looking at things like that, but it's really digging into those players, digging into those quarterbacks. And you have to remember, when you are digging into them, the CFL, with how little teams there are, your ability to dig deeper into those teams and those leagues and get to know those teams so much better is there, because you've got 9 teams in the CFL versus all the teams in the NFL. So you're able to go further into the depth, looking at those second string wide receivers, second string running backs that you're going to see some time out of, especially if a team's able to go up nice and high. And then the one thing about the books is, while you might want a running back there to be able to excel, he's going to start second string running back, like Matthew Peterson that was able to start the other week. The books just don't have that prop. So you've really got to look at what the books are going to have before you start digging in, because a lot of the time you'll find something and you'll find numbers on a player and it just won't be there for you to bet.
Yeah, and I mean, it's pretty obvious, but like second down is third down. You know what I mean? So I try to find like second down efficiency. I try to look at yards per play on first down and second down. But yeah, and things can get certainly wacky, as Joe said, in some of these fourth quarters. And again, they're playing in the summer, and I know some people down here are like, "Oh, well, this is Canada. It must always be cold." Yeah, not so much. Not so much. Detroit and Toronto are like a 90-minute drive away from each other. Like, you can get some extreme heat and everything else. So you definitely want to check the weather reports. Awesome. Well, Ben and I will definitely be doing more CFL bets moving forward here. And we appreciate your insight on that, Joe. Okay, overtime, last topic of the day. And yeah, we're banging the Canada drum here. The Blue Jays, one of the biggest surprises in baseball. I didn't see this coming. Ben and I wanted to bet before the season started Schneider to be the first manager fired. I'm glad we didn't, because we'd have lost that. The guy in Baltimore got it in the division before him. And obviously Pittsburgh and Colorado have done their thing too. They have basically right now, Joe, even odds to make or miss the playoffs. Like, if you really love them, you can find up to plus 1,000 for them to win the AL East. And the Yankees have fallen apart. And the Rays might be the best team in baseball right now. I don't know if that's like sustainable. And I'm also not sure what the Jays are going to do with the deadline. So what do you think of them right now? Do you see anything in the futures markets you like? Are you buying what they're selling?
Honest answer, or my answer is a Canadian? Which one should we go here? Because my honest answer is, heck no, I don't trust the Toronto Blue Jays, and I know what they're doing right now. But we know the Yankees are going to get back into form. They're going to find a way to hit in Toronto. They lost the series to the Chicago White Sox. This is a team that can come out and surprise us. They play these games and they get these wins that no one expected them to be able to do. So we still have so many issues around pitching, and when push comes to shove, our bats just don't come home. We get those runners out on base and we leave runners out there way too much for my liking. And yes, their records are looking solid at the moment, but the Toronto Blue Jays, I do think we will see over the next couple of weeks them take more losses than they take wins and get out of the conversation for the playoffs. And then what we'll see is, when it's at the point where Toronto can't make the playoffs, they come out so strong for those final couple of weeks that, again, Toronto doesn't make any changes. And then we wonder why we're sitting there at one point in the season and it's like, okay, we're not making the playoffs again. So I don't have faith. I've seen the storyline too many times play out for the Toronto Blue Jays.
I know Ben's got a question. One more quick one for me. So, like, if your cap there is right, and the next 2 weeks kind of shows the underbelly of who they really are, and I think last time I looked, Bichette's got 12 or 13 home runs already. Like, do they sell him? Do they sell some pieces? How do you think they handle it big picture if the bottom falls out a little bit?
Yeah, I just really don't know if we're going to be able to keep him for the money he wants with the big, huge signing of Vladdy, which I do think was a mistake because I think there's so many changes that need to happen for Toronto. For some reason, they just can't get past the hump and make the playoffs. I don't think Bo Bichette will be affordable for the Toronto Blue Jays. So I do think there's some moving pieces needed here. Vladdy, of course, is going to stay. I think that was a bad move, but I don't see it happening. And I don't see him wanting to stay here either, even though he wants to play with Vladdy.
What, like, with John Schneider, what is the – because, again, like, if they miss the playoffs, I just don't see how he is the manager for them still. But, like, if they get in as the wild card and lose in the first round, like, is he gone after this year? What is the expectation with Schneider? What does he have to do to remain as manager following this season?
You know, I think they're just probably going to keep him. It feels like Toronto doesn't like to upset status quo, right? They just hold on to these pieces. They're the definition of insanity. The definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. And that's what we keep seeing out of Toronto. So I know as a Toronto fan, as a backer of this team, we go into every season seeing Schneider, we see these players, we see the same lineups out there, a few changes, few tweaks here and there, but just not enough to make this team that team that can make the playoffs. And I think it always comes down to those final couple of weeks and how he's able to get them to perform in those final couple. It's like, hey, let's run it back. Let's give him another shot here. If he somehow gets them into the first round of the playoffs, of course he's going to be solidified into next year. If they don't make that push, even if they don't make the playoffs and make a push at the end of the season, I still think he returns. I think they'd have to fall flat on their faces for them to actually make a firing. I think Toronto's just one of those teams in the league that just doesn't want to upset the apple cart.
Real quick before we let you go, because I have to know as a Calgarian. So obviously you've got Edmonton in the finals, and Edmonton's representing Canada, but I mean, I covered the NHL for a long time. I watched the NHL my whole life. That's a long-standing blood feud there between the Oilers and the Flames. So were people like celebrating when the Panthers repeated? Like, what was the vibe in Calgary?
Oh, Jason, I wish you could have been at one of these pubs because going to the pubs, it was complete insanity out there. You had half the people there in the pubs in Edmonton jerseys. They were actually cheering on because it's a Canadian team. But I tell you, none of those people out there watching those games were true hockey fans that cheered for the Calgary Flames, because anyone cheering for the Calgary Flames, that being their home team, they were in the pubs in their Flames jerseys, booing every time the Edmonton Oilers touched that puck. You saw the diehard fans not wanting Edmonton to win because of that rivalry. It's huge out there. They were booing Connor McDavid, and they were all over the fact that Matthew Tkachuk and Sam Bennett once played for the Calgary Flames. So they were cheering for them as the players out there that really felt like they were representing the Flames. And as a Flames fan myself, I felt exactly the same way. It was amazing to see them be able to hoist the cup the second time in a row. But yeah, we truly did see an interesting mix of people at the pub. The worst jersey out there that I saw was half Oilers, half Flames. I tell you, that girl got booed everywhere she walked in that bar that night.
Yeah, come on. Lanny McDonald, Joel Otto, Mike Vernon, none of those guys would stand for those shenanigans, man. They bled in that rivalry. Yeah. Well, we really appreciate you playing along with our reindeer games here and giving us some of your best plays. Please let everybody know all the places they can find you on socials, on Sports Grid, everything you have cooking.
Yeah, you guys can find me on all social media at Joe Madden Sports, and then check me out over on Sports Grid. I do a 3 to 4 hour show every Saturday and Sunday over there, as well as guesting on In-Game Live during the week and game time decisions, but the weekend shows are normally between 4 to 8 p.m. Eastern. So check me out there everywhere that you can find Sports Grid.
Yeah, I consume a lot of Sports Grid. They do an amazing job. You guys definitely should as well. And we thank everybody for tuning in to Wanna Bet today. We thank Joe for joining us. Tomorrow, we'll have Gab Goody of FanDuel. We'll be digging down on some Browns. I think they're going to be the last team to win a game in the NFL this year. And Guardians with her and getting her best plays of the day and getting you set for the weekend. Thank you for tuning in again. We're glad you want to bet with us.